The story begins with a masked man, known as the Night Soul Knight, a figure admired by everyone. He appears at night to help and protect the people of Qingzhou City from the danger of bandits. His main mission is to uncover a case of illegal salt smuggling, which is connected to his mother's death. Outside Qingzhou City, some bandits who had been defeated years ago now live in the mountains. They stop and rob people passing through their area. The only person who can fight them is Shi from the Mei family. Meanwhile, in Qingzhou City, there's a happy, smart, and kind young girl named Wan Zi. She grew up performing on the streets with her dad, who has a special talent for breaking big rocks. One day, while Wan Zi and her dad are being chased by some bad guys, they see Shi and his soldiers returning to the city. Suddenly, some firecrackers go off, startling Shi's horse, which starts running out of control. Acting fast, Wan Zi stops the horse and checks on Shi. But then, the horse jumps, and Wan Zi and Shi accidentally bump into each other, causing an unexpected kiss. Shi is a brave young general. He also secretly protects the city as the Night Soul Knight, and is trying to solve a case about stolen salt, which is connected to his mom's death. Right now, he's on a secret mission, so he pretends to be blind to trick his enemies. One day, the emperor orders Shi to marry Ying Yao, the daughter of the 9th prince. However, Shi doesn't want to get married, so he uses his blindness as an excuse, asking his father to refuse the marriage proposal. In the capital, Ying Yao also disagrees with the marriage and tries to convince her father, the 9th prince, to ask the emperor to cancel it. But no matter how hard she tries, she can't get the decision changed. Meanwhile, in Qingzhou City, Wan Zi is with her father at a casino. Soon a debt collector arrives. Since they can't pay what they owe, Wan Zi and her father are taken away and locked up. News of this reaches Ba Tian, the leader of the bandits at Green Dragon Fort, who decides to marry Wan Zi to his adopted son, Bao Yi. Some bandits then come to Wan Zi and her father. They start beating Wan Zi's father to force her to agree to marry Bao Yi. After agreeing to marry, Wan Zi is taken to Green Dragon Fort. Meanwhile, Ying Yao has been sent from the capital to Qingzhou City by her father's orders. When she arrives, she's annoyed that no one is there to pick her up. Frustrated, she decides to go to a restaurant called Rue. While waiting in her room, her assistant, Xiao Yun, comes in and tells Ying Yao that she heard Shi lost his sight while fighting bandits. Shocked by this news, Ying Yao isn't ready for the marriage and starts planning to run away. By coincidence, Wan Zi, who is also brought to the restaurant to be dressed up, meets Ying Yao as she's about to escape. While they're talking, Xiao Yun returns, causing them both to panic and run into the wrong room. Xiao Yun mistakenly thinks the girl in the room is Ying Yao and takes her to a carriage heading to the Mei family manor. When they arrive, Wan Zi finally realizes that the girl she met at the restaurant is actually a princess who is supposed to marry Shi. Feeling scared and worried about what might happen to her, Wan Zi decides to keep quiet. That night, while everyone is asleep, Shi wakes up and, as usual, sneaks out of the manor through a secret door under his bed, disguised as the Night Soul Knight. Meanwhile, Ying Yao ends up trapped at Green Dragon Fort, confused and shocked to find herself in a room with a man claiming to be her fiancé, who turns out to be Bao Yi. The next morning, Xiao Yun enters Shi's room and is surprised to see that the woman there is not Ying Yao. Xiao Yun quickly takes Wan Zi to another room and questions her. Xiao Yun and Ying Yao's guards suspect that Wan Zi might be a criminal hiding Ying Yao. After Wan Zi explains everything, Xiao Yun becomes worried, realizing that this situation could be seen as a serious offense against the emperor. If they get caught, they could all be punished. Xiao Yun then asks Wan Zi to pretend to be Ying Yao for a while until they can find the real Ying Yao. One day, as Wan Zi is helping Shi put on his belt, a guard arrives and informs them that there will be a family banquet that afternoon. At the banquet, Shi tells his father, Chang Yun, that he has decided to move and live far away from the manor. Instead of agreeing, his father gets angry and whips Shi. Feeling sorry for him, Wan Zi impulsively steps in to protect Shi. Because of this, they make a bet. If Wan Zi manages to build a boundary wall in the manor, Shi will bow and thank her. On the other hand, at Green Dragon Fort, Bao Yi returns home drunk. Seeing this, Ying Yao plans to escape, but her attempt fails when some guards spot her. Luckily, Bao Yi steps in and saves Ying Yao from the guards chasing her. The next day, Wan Zi is happy because she's almost done building the boundary wall. However, when Chang Yun sees this, he gets angry, confronts Shurqing, and slaps him. Wan Zi, feeling responsible, tries to stop Chang Yun, accidentally pushing him, so he stumbles against the wall, knocking down some bricks. Shurqing quickly steps in to protect Wan Zi, but he ends up hurting his head in the process. At Green Dragon Fort, Ba Tian, the bandit leader, is surprised by Ying Yao's beauty. Ba Tian decides he wants to cancel the marriage between Ying Yao and his adopted son, Bao Yi, and marry Ying Yao himself, thinking she is Wan Zi. Hearing this, Ying Yao and Xiao Bap come up with a plan to use a potion from Huang that causes red, itchy rashes on the skin, hoping this will make Ba Tian lose interest in marrying her. Back at the main manor, while washing Shurqing's hair, Wan Zi starts to feel suspicious about Shurqing's blindness. The next day, Wan Zi creates a plan to test if the general is really blind. She learns that the general is very clean and is afraid of spiders. Wan Zi then approaches Shurqing and tells him she has a special eye medicine, but secretly, she has brought something dirty to test him. Shurqing, realizing her trick, pretends not to notice and messes up her plan. Thinking quickly, Wan Zi takes out a spider and lets it crawl onto Shurqing's clothes. When the general doesn't react, Wan Zi concludes that Shurqing must truly be blind. The following day, Shurqing's stepmother, Chang Yun's second wife, invites an acrobat troupe to the manor. Intrigued, Wan Zi volunteers to try a trick and manages to break a large stone. Watching this, Shurqing starts to suspect who his wife really is. To test her identity, Shurqing comes up with a plan. He writes a letter and decides that if Wan Zi can't copy it correctly, she might not be the real princess. Shurqing then asks Wan Zi to write down what he says. But as he watches her write, Shurqing is shocked to see that what Wan Zi writes is far from what he asked, confirming his suspicions. That night, Wan Zi plans to escape, but her plan is ruined when Xiao Yun catches her. Frustrated, Wan Zi goes back to her room and, by accident, discovers a secret door under Shurqing's bed. Using this, she sneaks out of the manor. While wandering around, Wan Zi spots the Soul Knight fighting someone. Wanting to help, she grabs a stick and tries to hit the enemy, but she misses and gets thrown back. Luckily, the Soul Knight saves her. Afterward, Wan Zi takes the Soul Knight to a quiet spot, and as they chat, she begins telling him her story, not knowing that he's really Shurqing. She explains that she used to be a street performer. Her father owed money from gambling and couldn't pay it back, so she was taken away and told she had to marry the son of a bandit leader, Ba Tian. But at the Rue restaurant, she met Ying Yao, who was also being forced to marry, and accidentally ended up in the wrong room, which led her to the main manor. Shurqing finally learns the truth about her past. Not knowing the Soul Knight is Shurqing, Wan Zi starts to complain about Shurqing, calling him a selfish, arrogant jerk who's not even human. Shocked, Shurqing listens as she talks badly about him, surprised to hear her true feelings. Feeling bad when he sees Wan Zi cry, Shurqing, still in disguise, offers to take her flying. He then escorts her safely back to the main manor. At Green Dragon Fort, Ba Tian tries to approach Ying Yao with bad intentions. Luckily, Ying Yao had already used Huang's potion, covering her skin with red rashes, which frightens Ba Tian and makes him leave the room. Meanwhile, back at the main manor, Shurqing finds the drunk Wan Zi asleep on his bed. Left with no choice, he decides to sleep on the floor. However, feeling uncomfortable and too hot, Shurqing heads to the bathroom to take a bath. Later, Wan Zi wakes up still a bit drunk and thirsty. She looks for water but can't find any, so in her half-asleep state, she goes to the bathroom and almost drinks the bathwater. Shurqing is shocked and quickly stops her. While still tipsy, Wan Zi hugs the general, testing him. Shurqing, caught in the moment, nearly kisses her, but Wan Zi snaps out of it, pushes him away, and scolds him. This incident reveals the truth. Shurqing was only pretending to be blind, and Wan Zi, pretending to be Ying Yao, actually cannot read or write. Elsewhere, Wan Zi's father is trying to find his way to Green Dragon Fort. On the road, he encounters Bao Yi, who realizes this old man is Wan Zi's father. When he finally meets Wan Zi, her father is shocked to see that the girl in front of him doesn't look like his daughter, though Ying Yao and her father try to keep up the act. One day in the room, Shirqing tells Wan Zi that she needs to learn to write so her disguise isn't exposed. During her writing practice, he won't let her eat until she finishes her lesson. Frustrated, Wan Zi decides to sneak out of the manor. While walking on the street, she almost gets hit by a horse, but a man named Situ Lin saves her. Situ Lin then invites Wan Zi to a restaurant and treats her to a meal. As night falls and Wan Zi still hasn't returned, a worried Shirqing goes to look for her, disguised as the Night Soul Knight. He finds Wan Zi happily chatting with a man. During their brief meeting, Situ Lin gives Wan Zi a gift. After Situ Lin leaves, the Night Soul Knight, or Shirqing, approaches, feeling jealous, and takes the gift from Situ Lin, replacing it with a bracelet that makes Wan Zi very happy. Back at the manor, Xiao Yan tells Wan Zi that her father wants to meet her the next day. Hearing this, Wan Zi begs Shirqing to let her go. Shirqing agrees, but only if Wan Zi can write her name. After failing several times, Shirqing offers to help. Gently, he holds Wan Zi's hand and guides her as she writes her name. The next day, Wan Zi finally meets her father. After returning from the meeting, Shirqing punishes her by making her practice writing all night. But Wan Zi can't keep her eyes open and starts to fall asleep. Seeing this, Shirqing ties her hair up to keep her awake. Unexpectedly, an intruder sneaks in, trying to kidnap Wan Zi. When Shirqing goes to check on her, he's shocked to see the intruder taking her away. During the struggle, everyone gathers and discovers that Shirqing has been pretending to be blind all along. As a result, Shirqing's father locks him up for 3 days without food. Feeling sorry for him, Wan Zi secretly sneaks bread to Shirqing. But as she sees him getting thinner, she can't stand it any longer. Wan Zi kneels in front of Chang Yun's room, begging him to release Shirqing. At first, Chang Yun ignores her, but after Wan Zi kneels all day and night, his heart softens, and he agrees to free Shirqing. When Shirqing is released, he finds Wan Zi still kneeling. He helps her up and takes her back to her room. On another day, without realizing it, Wan Zi becomes part of Shirqing's plan to investigate spies in the Mei family home. Shirqing uses her to attract the spies' attention and takes Wan Zi out for a walk. As they're about to buy some snacks, Shirqing suddenly disappears. And Wan Zi, noticing he's gone, starts looking for him, but unknowingly becomes a target for the spy who wants to harm her. Just in time, Shirqing, disguised as the Night Soul Knight, arrives and rescues her. Curious, Wan Zi pulls off the hero's mask and discovers that it's Shirqing. That night, Shirqing goes to the Rue restaurant to meet someone and learn new information. He finds out that bandits from Green Dragon Fort are planning to rob a caravan in the forest the next day. Shirqing decides to stop them. The next day, during the fight between Shirqing's disguised soldiers and the bandits led by Bao Yi, Shirqing realizes that the caravan is actually smuggling illegal salt. Angry that the Night Soul Knight keeps stopping him, the leader of the salt smugglers, who turns out to be Situ Lin, decides to join forces with the Green Dragon Fort bandits to capture the Night Soul Knight. They agree that Ba Tian will have Bao Yi capture and kill the Night Soul Knight. If Bao Yi succeeds, he will be allowed to marry Ying Yao, who is still mistaken for Wan Zi, and will be made the leader of Green Dragon Fort. After several days, the Night Soul Knight still hasn't been captured, making Ba Tian furious. He warns Bao Yi that if he doesn't catch the Night Soul Knight, he won't be allowed to marry Wan Zi, who he thinks is Ying Yao. At that time, Bao Yi feels torn cause Ying Yao doesn't want him to do anything bad, but if he fails to capture the Night Soul Knight, he can't protect her from his adoptive father. One night, Bao Yi disguises himself as the Night Soul Knight and pretends to attack Wan Zi, hoping to lure out the real Night Soul Knight. However, he fails once again in his mission. Meanwhile, Wan Zi, afraid of falling in love with Shirqing, begins to avoid him. She's confused about her feelings and feels unworthy of being Shirqing's wife, a role meant for Ying Yao. Wan Zi decides to leave the main manor for some fresh air and unexpectedly runs into Situ Lin. Secretly following her, Shirqing sees this and becomes very jealous. When they return, Shirqing asks Wan Zi why she was meeting with Situ Lin. Wan Zi explains that she and Sita Lin are just friends and nothing more. At Rue restaurant, Wan Zi and Shirqing meet Sita Lin again. Sita Lin invites them to his celebration. At the event, there's a competition to capture a crown, which is believed to bring good luck for the year to whoever wins it. Shirqing decides to join. During the match against Sita Lin, Shirqing wins the crown and gives it to Wan Zi. However, instead of being happy, Wan Zi gets upset, feeling Shirqing was too forceful in defeating Sita Lin. Later at home, Wan Zi keeps defending Sita Lin and blaming Shirqing. Shirqing explains that Sita Lin isn't a good person and that his business is shady, but Wan Zi doesn't believe him and still supports Sita Lin. Elsewhere, Ying Yao tries to set up Bao Yi with Ba Tian's daughter, Nan Xiang. Her plan seems to work, but Ying Yao starts feeling confused as she finds herself jealous of Nan Xiang. She shares her feelings with Wan Zi's father, who encourages Ying Yao, acknowledging her jealousy. Meanwhile, Shirqing is angry with his servants and guards for not watching over Wan Zi, as she has disappeared from the manor. He orders everyone to search for her. Soon after, Wan Zi suddenly appears and explains that she just returned from Green Dragon Fort, where she went to help rescue Ying Yao and her father. Realizing this, Shirqing decides to help save Ying Yao and Wan Zi's father. At night in Green Dragon Fort, Nan Xiang, who dislikes Ying Yao because Ba Tian favors her and plans to make her his new wife, sneaks into Ying Yao's room with a plan to poison her. However, unexpectedly, Bao Yi ends up drinking the poison instead. The next day, Wan Zi is in the market when Sita Lin approaches her and invites her to go somewhere. At first, Wan Zi refuses, but when she notices someone following Sita Lin, she decides to join him and warn him. However, it turns out to be a trap, and Sita Lin captures Wan Zi. Later, Shirqing, disguised as the Night Soul Knight, arrives to help, but Sita Lin manages to chain him up and discovers that the Night Soul Knight is actually Shirqing. Sita Lin then begins to hurt Wan Zi, slapping her repeatedly until she bleeds. Seeing this, Shirqing is filled with rage, breaks free, and rescues Wan Zi. Meanwhile, back at Green Dragon Fort, the poison in Bao Ye's body spreads and threatens his life. With no other option, Ying Yao goes to Ba Tian to ask for his help. She manages to get the antidote and gives it to Bao Yi. Once he recovers, Bao Yi goes to Ying Yao's room and notices a wedding outfit. He feels happy, thinking he will be the one marrying her. But when he goes to see his adoptive father, Ba Tian, he is surprised to see Ba Tian also wearing a wedding outfit. Confused, Bao Yi returns to Ying Yao, and she finally tells him the truth, that she made a deal to get the antidote to save his life. Shocked by the truth, Ying Yao tries to make Bao Yi see that Ba Tian has been deceiving him all along. She explains that even if Bao Yi had managed to kill the Night Soul Knight, Ba Tian would never let them marry. Not believing her, Bao Yi decides to confront Ba Tian himself. Before entering Ba Tian's room, he accidentally overhears Ba Tian talking to his assistants, revealing his real plan. Ba Tian only intends to use Bao Yi and plans to marry Wan Zi himself. This way, if Bao Yi wins, Ba Tian will benefit twice, but if Bao Yi loses, at least Ba Tian will have Ying Yao as his bride. Upon learning Ba Tian's true intentions, Bao Yi becomes furious. He then meets with Shirqing and asks for his help. Shirqing and Wan Zi agree to assist Bao Yi by creating a distraction. They set fire to several houses in Green Dragon Fort, while Bao Yi sneaks Ying Yao and Wan Zi's father out of the fort. They all meet up at the Rue restaurant. However, Bao Yi feels confused when he hears the woman he thought was Wan Zi being called Ying Yao. Finally, Bao Yi discovers that Ying Yao is actually a princess, the daughter of the 9th prince and niece of the emperor. During dinner, they are suddenly surrounded by bandits. Although Shirqing manages to kill one of them, he is hit with a powder that blinds him. Believing that Shirqing is truly blind, Sita Lin resumes his illegal salt smuggling. However, Shirqing, who is still able to see, secretly makes a plan to capture Sita Lin and seize the illegal salt. Turns out, the plan works successfully. Enraged, Sita Lin confronts Shirqing in a fight. During the battle, a key witness to the murder of Shirqing's mother is killed. Before he dies, the man reveals that the one who hid Sita Lin was a person with a jeweled cane and a man with a cat mask, who turns out to be Wan Zi's father. When they return to the manor, Wan Zi immediately goes to Shi Qing to ask if his mission was successful. Holding back his anger, Shi Qing reveals all the facts to her. Shocked, Wan Zi rushes to confront her father, who now regrets his past actions. At that moment, Wan Zi feels sad, realizing that her father was indirectly responsible for the death of Shi Qing's mother. Her father explains everything to Shi Qing, saying that back then, he was only asked to find an empty house and had no idea a murder would happen. He begs for forgiveness, but an angry Shi Qing orders him to leave. Later, as Shi Qing drinks to relax, Bao Yi approaches him. Shi Qing shares his frustration, saying he still hasn't found his mother's killer, who is someone with a cane topped by a single gem. Surprised, Bao Yi tells Shi Qing he knows this person caused Ba Tian. The next day, Shi Qing and Bao Yi attack Green Dragon Fort. However, Shi Qing loses the fight and is nearly killed by Ba Tian, who is very powerful. Just in time, Wan Zi and her father arrive to save him. Ba Tian chases after them, determined to kill Shi Qing. Wan Zi tries to protect Shi Qing, but she ends up falling off a cliff. When Shi Qing is about to be killed, Chang Yun suddenly arrives. Together, they fight Ba Tian and finally manage to defeat him. After waking up from being unconscious for several days, Shi Qing feels confused and panicked, realizing that Wan Zi is missing. Ignoring his own health, he immediately sets out to find her. After a long search, Shi Qing grows frustrated when he can't find Wan Zi. Suddenly, he receives a letter saying that Wan Zi is alive but held captive by Situlin. Without wasting time, Shi Qing heads to the location mentioned in the letter to rescue her. However, Situlin has set up a trap connected to the chains holding Wan Zi. Shi Qing and Situlin get into a fierce struggle, during which Shi Qing manages to break the chains holding Wan Zi. In the end, Shi Qing pushes Situlin away from them, causing the trap to go off and letting them escape safely. After everything is resolved, Ying Yao and Bao Yi decide to travel the world together. However, soon after they leave, bad news arrives. The Emperor, having heard that Shi Qing defeated Green Dragon Fort, orders Shi Qing to come to the capital to receive an award. Ying Yao is also expected to reunite with her family, so Shi Qing instructs Xiao Yun to catch up with Ying Yao. Knowing the royal messengers will arrive the next day, Wan Zi pretends to be ill and wears a veil to cover her face. The following day, Mr. Liu, the royal messenger, arrives to escort Shi Qing and Wan Zi, and they set off on their journey. Along the way, Shi Qing stops to let them rest. Feeling nervous and worried about her identity being discovered, Wan Zi is reassured by Shi Qing. As they wait to switch places with Bao Yi and Ying Yao, the pair doesn't show up, and Mr. Liu insists they continue their journey. Soon after, they finally arrive at the capital, feeling nervous and afraid as they enter the palace. There, they meet the 9th prince, Ying Yao's father. Shi Qing explains that Ying Yao is unwell and tries to prevent the 9th prince from lifting her veil. However, the 9th prince suddenly removes Wan Zi's veil, and shocked, he shouts for his guards. Fortunately, the real Ying Yao appears just in time and explains everything to her father, the 9th prince. He then asks his daughter to bring Bao Yi, the man she told him about. Ying Yao feels happy, thinking her father will approve of their relationship. But when Bao Yi arrives, the 9th prince unexpectedly orders his guards to arrest Bao Yi and Wan Zi. Seeing this, Ying Yao and Shi Qing quickly plan to rescue Wan Zi and Bao Yi. Soon, they successfully help them escape. Just as they're about to find a hiding place, they're surrounded by the 6th prince. However, Shi Qing already knows that the 6th prince is involved in the illegal salt smuggling and has betrayed the emperor. It turns out that Shi Qing planned this all along, and he finally manages to capture the 6th prince. In the end, after seeing Shi Qing successfully stop the illegal salt smuggling, defeat Green Dragon Fort, and capture proof of the 6th prince's rebellion, the 9th prince decides that Bao Yi and Wan Zi won't be punished. Luckily, the empress also spoke on Shi Qing's behalf to the emperor, who agrees to grant Shi Qing's request to make Wan Zi a princess and allow him to marry her. Bao Yi is made Shi Qing's deputy and allowed to marry Ying Yao. The film ends. The moral lesson from this film is if you pretend to be blind to avoid marriage, you might end up with a horse kiss and a fake princess. And remember, if you try to fool a spider lover, you'll just end up tangled in your own web of lies.